Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this way, because of devotional service, Maharaj Ambarish, who was endowed with varieties of transcendental qualities, was completely aware of Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, he executed devotional service perfectly. Because of his devotion, he thought even the topmost planet of this material world no better than the hellish planets. Purport. An exalted and pure devotee like Maharaj Ambarish is in full awareness of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In other words, a devotee of Vasudeva, Krishna, is in full knowledge of the other features of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is realized in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. A devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, knows everything. Vasudeva Sarvam iti. Because Vasudeva, Krishna, includes both Paramatma and Brahman. One does not have to realize Paramatma by the yoga system, for the devotee always thinking of Vasudeva is the topmost yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham. And as far as Gyan is concerned, if one is a perfect devotee of Vasudeva, he is the greatest Mahatma. Vasudeva Sarvam iti Samahatma Sadurlabha. A Mahatma is one who has full knowledge of the Absolute Truth. Thus, Maharaj Ambarish, being a devotee of the Personality of Godhead, was in full awareness of Paramatma, Brahman, Maya, the material world, the spiritual world, and how things are going on everywhere. Everything was known to him. Yasmin vigyate sarvam evam vigyatam bhavati. Because the devotee knows Vasudeva, he knows everything within the creation of Vasudeva. Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma sadurlabha. Such a devotee does not give much value to the highest standard of happiness within this material world. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bibyati swarga pavarga narakesh api tulyarta darshinaha. Because he is fixed in devotional service, a devotee does not regard any position in the material world as important. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has therefore written in Chaitanya Chandamrita 5, Kaivalyam narakayate tridasya pur akasha pushpayate durantadriya kala sarpa patali patokata damstrayate Vishwam Purna Sukayate Vidhi Mahindra Dish Chakitayate Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhava Vatam Tam Gauram Eva Stumaha. For one who becomes a pure devotee through devotional service to great personalities like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kaivalya, or merging into Brahman, appears no better than hell. As far as the heavenly planets are concerned, to a devotee, they are like a phantasmagoria or a will-o'-the-wisp. And as far as yogic perfection is concerned, a devotee does not care a fig for such perfection, since the purpose of yogic perfection is achieved automatically by the devotee. This is all possible when one becomes a devotee of the Lord through the medium of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Agana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militangena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Verse again. Evam Vidani Kaguna Saraja Paramatmi Brahmani Vasudeve Kriya Kalapai Samuvaha Bhaktim Yaya Virinchan Nirayams Chakara. In this way, because of devotional service, Maharaj Ambarish, who was endowed with varieties of transcendental qualities, was completely aware of Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, he executed devotional service perfectly. Because of his devotion, he thought even the topmost planet of this material world no better than the hellish planets. Hare Krishna. So, this is a very special and amazing pastime in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I've been unfolding over the last few chapters. And here we've come to the point where Durvasa Muni, after having spoken to the Lord directly to please extinguish or get rid of this Sudarshan chakra that is chasing me all over the universe. Please stop the burning of the Sudarshan chakra. The Lord said, there's nothing I can do. There's only one hope, and that hope is to go directly to Maharaj Ambarish and offer your prayers and obeisances to him. So this pastime helping us to understand the intensity and the potential sufferings and burnings of Vaishnava Aparad. So Durvasa Muni has at this stage returned, and he has offered his, or he at least began to offer his respects and prayers to Maharaj Ambarish. But Maharaj Ambarish, setting such an amazing and wonderful example, that before Durvasa Muni could even finish offering his prayers, he was immediately overwhelmed with a feeling of almost insecurity and incorrectness, that this is not right. Durvasa Muni is coming here and offering me prayers. And he was thinking within his heart that actually it is me who is the offender. It's me who is actually the person who's acted incorrectly. And because of that feeling, it's described that even after Durvasa Muni left, having cursed him, that Maharaj Ambarish continued to fast for 1 whole year, only drinking water. So, thinking that actually I've committed the offense, feeling himself inadequate and the aparadi, the wrongdoer. So now the Durvasa Muni is offering his prayers and trying to make amends for this situation. Maharaj Ambarish is overwhelmed, and immediately he begins to offer prayers to the Sudarshan Chakra, and also to the Lord. And in his prayers, there's such a deep level of respect for the Lord and for the Lord's weapon, and also such a heartfelt mood of humility in which he's begging Sudarshan Chakra to, please, if I've ever done anything pious or correct in my life, anything, then I beg you, please take that and as a result of that, remove yourself from the suffering of Durvasa Muni. Please free him from any suffering, because it's not right. It's not his fault. Such an intense mood of humility that Maharaj Ambarish is presenting. And because of his deep humility and his overwhelming sincerity, Sudarshan Chakra leaves. And Durvasa Muni is overwhelmed. And immediately he's feeling so grateful to Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish doesn't stop there. After having fasted for a whole year, drinking only water, which I hardly expect any of us can imagine, reading the pastime of Ranti Dev, fasting for 48 days without drinking water was enough. Thinking of fasting for 1 whole year, only drinking water, is something probably we can't really imagine. And after this, Maharaj Ambarish there's prepared an opulent feast, and the first thing that he does is he sits Durvasa Muni down and he feeds him. He satisfies him completely and makes sure that first he's taken care of. And then he waits for Durvasa Muni to say, thank you, now you please take, you eat, you honor prasad, you please take now. And then Maharaj Ambarish takes. And then Durvasa Muni is offering so many blessings, and he's saying that Maharaj Ambarish his glories will be forever sung throughout the 3 worlds, and especially especially in the heavenly planets. But here we see that the statement that's being made is that Durvasa Muni was such a great personality, such a pure devotee of the Lord, that for him this idea of glory, the idea of liberation, the idea of life in the heavenly planets, or the idea of some sort of yogic perfections, it was all useless. It had absolutely no real meaning, no purpose for him at all. And although Durvasa Muni is offering this, but Maharaj Ambarish is completely absorbed in loving devotional service to the Lord, and his mood is is one that, as is stated here, and also the mood that Rupa Goswami gives us, Anyabilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmajanavartam Anukuyena Krishna Nushilanam Bhaktir Uttama, that pure devotional service, this Uttama Bhakti, is epitomized by no desire for karma or gyan or adi or yogic siddhis or some mystic perfection. So Maharaj Ambarish is the personification of this pure devotee, and he's setting a very wonderful example for all of us. One that I must say is very very purifying to read about, and very purifying to hear about, and even more purifying to speak about, because certainly if someone comes and in one sense we can understand that Durvasa Muni was a little harsh. He was maybe a little on the heavy side, not necessarily, so compassionate, considering he showed up at the door with, what was it, like 10,000 disciples or something like that, and demanded immediately to be fed prasad. I mean, if someone shows up at the door with just themselves and starts demanding to be fed, we might see how are we going to feel. Again, this pastime of King Rantidev, recently hearing how, him and his family were fasting for 48 days, and then, was it first the Brahmin shows up at the door, right as they're about to break fast, like perfect timing. I mean, how is it on a fasting day, right? Once the fasting hour comes to cease, maximum queues begin. Maximum numbers, and people are on edge. Tensions are high. Tempers flare. Right? Waiting for their place in the queue to get an honor prasad. So, but King Rantidev, he was so composed that immediately he made sure that this Brahmin was fed sumptuously. And then the Brahmin left, and he sat the family down, he divided the prasad, and he was about to break fast again. And another man appeared at the door, and he was a Shudra, and he was not alone. He had also a pack of dogs. And he said, "Oh, my dear King Rantidev, I am so hungry, and so are all of my dogs. You please feed us." And King Rantidev gave all of his prasad to this Shudra and to his dogs. And then he was left with one glass of water. Right? And he was holding this glass of water, and he was thinking, after 48 days of complete fast, this glass of water is jivan. It is life. It is the only thing that is going to keep body and soul together at this point. Thank Krishna. Rasoham apsakunteya. And he was about to drink, and another knock came at the door. And when he opened the door, it was a chandala, lower than the dogs that he had fed, was a dog eater. And what did he say? "I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. Please, only you, King, can quench my thirst with that." Probably it wasn't a glass of water, but some sort of cup of water. And King Rantidev, he didn't even hesitate. He immediately offered the glass, this water to the chandala, and he also began to offer prayers. And he said, actually, my hunger, my thirst, everything, even though I know by giving you this water, I understand that it means basically I'm giving you my life. Because if I don't take anything at this point, my life's going to be over. But by giving you this water at this intense moment in my own life, by serving you, I feel complete happiness. I feel complete satisfaction. I no longer thirst. I'm no longer experiencing hunger. I feel such satisfaction by serving you. So this is the mood of a devotee. And then what happened, all these personalities manifested their true forms, and it turned out that they were like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and all of these great demigods, devatas, and they began bestowing so many blessings upon King Rantidev. So Maharaj Ambarish, he's in the same mood. Durvasa Muni shows up on the scene and he's prepared, okay, no problem, I'll feed him. But he's also been fasting for so long. And Durvasa Muni says, I will give you a little bit of time to prepare. I will be merciful upon you. So I will go and take bath. But Ambarish Maharaj was thinking, if I don't break my fast, then I'll also lose all the benefits of that fast. But at the same time, if I break fast before I feed Durvasa Muni, then I could be in big trouble. So he was in a predicament. I don't know if anyone else has experienced these kind of predicaments, where you have to do something one way that you know, if I do it like this, then that's going to cause this, and if I do it like that, then it's going to be like this. So how do I act? One senior devotee once explained that the art of Krishna consciousness is the ability to balance within the mind two apparently contradictory ideas and still continue on with your devotional service. So sometimes we find ourselves in these predicaments of, how do I know what to choose? What is the right way? Ambarish Maharaj, Jai Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki Jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai, Shishi Jai Nitai ki Jai. And Ambarish Maharaj, seeking consultation, was advised that drinking water simultaneously breaks fast and does not break fast. And he thought, okay, so he drank water. But then when Durvasa Muni returned, he understood that, oh, you have broken fast before me. And immediately his anger came out. So, how do we feel in these situations? What are the pages of the Bhagavatam trying to teach us? What can we learn from the pages of the Bhagavatam? If the teachings of the scripture are not applicable in our own life, then in one sense you could say, what is the point? Hearing, certainly, from the pages of the scripture is purifying to the heart, but one must also be able to practically take something out and apply it in one's life, or at least make an endeavor or an attempt to apply. So what can we learn from this very instructive pastime of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni? Durvasa Muni was a Brahmana. He was also had mastered so many yogic perfections, very advanced personality. Ambarish Maharaj serving in the post of king as Kshatriya. So his role was to serve Durvasa Muni, who was a Brahmin. And acting out of etiquette, he was meant to do that. When Durvasa Muni cursed him in the same way that Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by Shringi, Srila Prabhupada describes, or it's explained there, that actually Parikshit Maharaj was powerful enough to counter the curse. Certainly Ambarish Maharaj also powerful enough to counter the curse of Durvasa Muni. But he didn't do that. He actually tolerated the situation, and not only tolerated, but he took on a process in which he could atone for what he felt was his own misjudgment or bad character. So he genuinely felt within himself that actually it's me who wasn't acting correctly. And this is such a difficult thing in a situation where there is disagreement. For someone to actually feel in a disagreement that no, it's my fault. Genuinely, it is my fault. I'm to blame. Even if it's so clear to you and thousands of others that you are not to blame. To think for one moment that even if it appears that the material circumstances mean I'm not to blame, but somehow, by my being involved in this, I also have a cause or a part to play. Otherwise, why would it be happening to me? Why isn't it happening to someone else? Or why isn't the person sitting next to me who seems to be the rightful, all of this is directed to the wrong person. I think you should direct it to him because he's a rascal and I'm not. Don't you know who I am? Don't you understand what I do, how I do it, the love that's in my heart for Radha and Krishna? How could you curse me? I mean, what to speak of us? We're talking about Maharaj Ambarish, who perfected his life by engaging all of his limbs in devotional service and took complete shelter of the Lord. And here he's getting cursed by Durvasa Muni. I mean, what to speak of us having some difficulty? Or at least what to speak of me having some difficulty. But to be able in the middle of all that to retain and maintain composure and not react. Who here finds it difficult to not react in provoking circumstances? Only a few. God bless all the rest of you. I beg for your mercy and blessings upon me. Srila Prabhupada explains in the Krishna book that you can judge a man's greatness by his ability to tolerate provoking circumstances. So when provoking circumstances come, who's on the camera? Who's being observed? Who's being watched? Is it the provocateur? Provocator? Or is it me? Is Krishna watching to see how I deal with this situation? Or is he just waiting for this person to commit some offense so that he can chastise him? Maybe he's doing both simultaneously. There's a statement that the Lord accomplishes many things with one action. But for us, what is important? Sometimes I interact, and myself also feel like this, but interact with devotees in which sometimes we feel that we recognize in someone else an imperfection or an impurity or an anartha that may be the cause of difficulty for them in the future. Especially we recognize it after they have exhibited it in a pure darshan form before us. And we think, oh, someone has to help this person. I think it should be me. I think I should help them to understand what they're doing wrong in their devotional life. So let me try to teach them and correct them. Maybe it's our position. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's also a reaction. Because it seems here that Maharaj Ambarish didn't react to the provocation of Durvasa Muni, but he tolerated And I've been speaking a lot recently about this word tolerance. Who here has heard of the word tolerance? Who here feels that they are tolerant? Okay. It's a tough one, isn't it? Who here has ever made a statement like this? I've been tolerating for so long. Anyone here has ever felt like that? And I'm tolerating you right now. Anyone feels like that? I do so much of the time. Do we think that that's tolerance? Is that tolerance? Is this tolerance? Probably not. I mean, Maharaj Ambarish, he wasn't like, for one whole year, cup of water, Durvasa Muni, I'm tolerating. Thinking in his mind, I hope that, Sudarshan Chakra gets him, No, he was praying. My dear Lord, forgive me. I'm such an offender. Until Durvasa Muni returns and I can feed him properly and look after him, I will take on austerity. I will take on voluntary suffering. So this looks different from the general idea of what tolerance might be, or might be understood as. Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 13, in the texts 8 through 12, where he lists the items of knowledge, tolerance is one of them listed. And it's such a wonderful purport Srila Prabhupada gives there. I think it's over about eight pages, where he breaks down each one of these qualities and gives an individual purport. And two definitions that he gives there always stand out to me so much. First, he gives a definition of humility. And he says there that humility means that one should not be very anxious to be honored by others. And he calls this anxiety to be honored by others material delusion. So humility means that I'm not eager to be honored by someone else. There's no need. Prabhupada doesn't say humility means becoming a doormat. He just says that humility means that I'm not eager to be honored by anyone. I don't necessarily deserve any respect or appreciation. And I'm definitely not going hunting for it. If it comes, Jai. If it doesn't, Jai. Then he says, what is tolerance? And he says, tolerance, it means to be practiced to bear insult from others. This is tolerance. To be practiced to bear insult from others. One more time for good luck. To be practiced to bear insult from others. And then he says, and if you take up spiritual life, you will be given many opportunities to practice insult from others. He makes it all so clear. But can we hear? And more, can we apply? Practice to bear insult from others. That we should expect, and Srila Prabhupada says, that we shouldn't expect something different. Why? Because the material nature is so constituted that is just the way that it is. That's why it's a material delusion. We're in delusion if we think that it's going to be some way other than that. If we think that somehow we're going to achieve some level of perfection through bhakti yoga, that we're going to be glorified day in and day out, and that everyone is going to honor and respect us, and no one give us a hard time, it seems that that's probably delusion. People criticize Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee. Numerous, his godbrothers criticized, his disciples criticized, the general public criticized. But did he become affected? Did he stop what he was doing? No. He carried on. There's a statement someone once told to me. I didn't look it up, but evidently it's a Bengali proverb that Srila Prabhupada quoted. And he said that the statement is that the dogs may bark, but the caravan still passes. Or the other way that it was explained is that the dogs may bark, but the elephant just walks by. Means he's not disturbed. The elephant's like, and the dogs are barking so much. And the elephant looks and keeps walking, undisturbed. And I said, well, what if the dogs need a little barking back at them? And this devotee said, then the elephant becomes a dog and is no longer an elephant. So like that, the dogs may bark, but the caravan still passes. And we have to become fixed in our own consciousness and somehow just become undisturbed. Of course, sometimes the dog's barking may be to alert us that there's something that we may need to adjust, and maybe sometimes we need to listen to the barking dogs. Or sometimes if the dog is barking directly in your face, you might need to give it a bone to appease it so it goes away. Which may mean that we need to learn something, we need to digest something. Tolerance, and I'll end with this, my understanding is, and I think I've said this before, probably here, is a digestive process. We receive something, it goes in, and it needs to be assimilated and digested. We need to extract nourishment, and we need to discard waste. It's like digestion. If you eat something and it goes in, and somehow it gets stuck up somewhere in the middle, that's going to be a sure cause of disease. Dis-ease means no longer ease, means illness. Until we can get it all cleared out. And that blockage is going to cause other things to get blocked up. And it's the same with things that happen to us. If we take them in and we just push them down and push them down and try to pretend that it's not there, or in the name of tolerance don't assimilate it with the digestive fluids of humility and philosophy and knowledge, then they're going to get hung up. And then we're going to have hang-ups. And then our spiritual life is going to get hung up. And then our material and physical body will also probably get hung up. And it will be the cause of so many difficulties. But if somehow something happens and we can take it in, we can digest it, we can assimilate it, and we can take some nutrient from it, we can learn something from it. And then, okay, no matter the other stuff, the way it might have been delivered, the person who delivered it, maybe that's not so important. But I got it. Krishna was trying to teach me something, and I got it. Thank you, Krishna. And thank you, Prabhu or Mataji, who delivered that. You helped me in so many ways. Imagine. Like that. I'll finish there because I've probably rambled on for long enough. At least I'm purifying myself enough. So thank you for your kind attention. I don't know, is there time for questions or... Yeah, a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions or corrections, O best of senior Vaishnavas, please chastise me. Comments are always good for my purification.